If you can't answer this question, your body won't transform. Welcome back to a new episode of the Women's Trend Society show. Stay tuned because we are going to ask you a question. And if you cannot answer this question, there's literally no chance that your body is going to look defined, athletic, lean, strong, all the things that you want.
And it's an important question because it's going to tell you a lot about what's underneath that layer of fluff. And actually, it's not just one question. It could be like several questions, but they all have exactly the same purpose. And so are we going to ask the question?
Yeah, like we are asking that question every client who starts working with us. It's one of the first things that is in our like consultation form because we just want to know, like, does she know the answer to it or not?
And the question is simply like, how strong are you? And not just like how strong are you overall, but also in specific lifts for specific rep ranges. And the reason we ask this is because we know that, you know, the strength that you have, that you can express in certain movement is going to correlate very, very strongly with the amount of muscle mass that you have. And if you are able to perform certain lifts at a certain level, in the sense of moving a certain ways, then we know like, okay, there's a lot of muscle here or there's not a lot of muscle here. And this is super important because, you know, if you're already going to the gym like 3, 4, 5 times per week, if you are paying attention to your nutrition, you know, hitting your protein, paying attention to your fiber intake, eating mostly clean and that sort of things, and maybe you try to, you know, recomp or you want to see muscle definition, all of that, this is only going to happen if you have enough muscle. And what we've seen time and time again, or heard time and time again, is like, yeah, I know that I have a lot of muscle. I just need to get rid of the layer of fat. I just have too much fluff. And then we're like, how do you know that you have enough muscle? And then when we ask like, how strong are you? How many pull-ups can you do? How many push-ups can you do? What's your 10 rep max for squats, for RDLs, for barbell hip extension, that sort of things? Then very often we hear cricket.
Yeah, I had this week a conversation with the women on Instagram, and she was, and this is what it leads to, right? So we are going into like what happens actually besides not looking like you lift. How does it show up in your day-to-day when you don't know those numbers? Because it's not only about the physique that you are not able to achieve or that you haven't achieved yet, but very, very specific things are showing up. So I had a conversation with this lady in my DMs, and she was basically like writing down all the things that she has already tried. And it was like a very long list. So it was not just like, yeah, I'm lifting weights and I'm eating clean. But it was like, hey, different macro splits, different calorie ranges, like from eating 1,300 calories to 2,500 calories, trying to eat less, trying to eat more protein, trying to eat less protein, trying to eat more carbs, less carbs, like all those things, and not being able to figure out why is she still not looking lean and defined? Why can't she achieve the what she said, like shredded look, where you can really see like the cuts of the muscles that you have underneath? And so she was able to lose weight, she was able to gain weight, but it didn't change really much about like her physical appearance. It was just like getting a little bit bigger or getting a little bit smaller, but the shape was not very different. And then I would go on and ask about those things, right? So I asked her about her training, and she said, no, training is no problem. I'm like super consistent with it, you know. I'm training for a couple of years now, like that's not the problem. But then you start thinking like, oh, it's my nutrition. And when you have tried out so many things with your nutrition, you start thinking like, hey, is it my age? Is it my hormones? Is it my metabolism? Like all those things, you're literally getting pulled into so many directions of maybe it's this, maybe it's that, and you're getting just trapped in this never-ending loop of trying so many different things, when in the end the answer lies in your training sessions and your strength numbers. Because what she then shared with me is that she is lifting currently at home. She was training in the gym for some time, but right now, because she's time poor, she's training at home, and she has weights from 12 to 16 kg. How much pounds is that? Like double? Roughly double?
Yeah, roughly double. So 25 pounds to 35.
Yeah. And for her, that's like intermediate weights. And I was like, no, it's not. Like, that's maybe for you right now. It maybe feels heavy. That can absolutely be the case, right? Maybe that's currently your strength level, like at the max, and that's why it feels heavy to you. But it's not really for someone who is training already a couple of years with weights specifically. It's very like beginner level strength. And that just shows me that there is not enough muscle mass underneath. And no matter how much you are losing and gaining and losing and gaining and trying all those macro splits and different diets and calorie numbers and whatever it is, it will not change the fact that there is just nothing to reveal underneath. Like if you're losing then weight, you just got yourself a smaller, softer version of the exact same body, but it's not looking any different. There is not this muscle definition that you are after. And so that's why we are so big on strength numbers. And you don't need to become a power lifter, right? It's for us, it's not about like, hey, you need to lift 200 kilo on your deadlift, but you need to have a certain level of strength that just tells us like, oh, there is actually something underneath to reveal. And it's very easy for us to see that and be like, hey, it's super simple. You're just not there yet. You need to build up your strength so that your training becomes efficient and effective for muscle growth. And once you then like build that up and focus on really building some real muscle mass and not only strength, then going after that through a fat loss phase will reveal the look that you're after.
I think, what you just said about powerlifting is pretty interesting, because this is an argument that we hear all the time. It's like, yeah, but powerlifters, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, because a lot of powerlifters that we know, like the picture of a powerlifter we have in our head is a little bit more fluffy and bulky.
True that. But
because a lot of women also don't see the different weight classes.
Yeah.
And also like the ladies who are like, I don't know, 60, 65 kg, maybe a little bit more like petite, who have like, they're like in great shape.
Yeah, this is exactly where I was going to go with this. And so I think it's still extremely valuable to look at those, that kind of demographic, because when we talk about hitting certain strength benchmarks, it's not that we just like pull that out of thin air. Is like we look at like, okay, where does a beginner start? And when you say like, okay, I'm going to do some squats, then most women, the first time that they do some squats, they are going to lift like, I don't know, 20, 30 kilo. A barbell, maybe twice like 5 kilo on each side. And then a lot of women, they have actually a great mobility in their lower body, so they'll be able to do that as to grass, I don't know, for 10 reps maybe, especially if they've done a bit of sport earlier in their life. And then this is pretty much like where you begin.
Yeah.
there are also some women who don't start there. They start with like 20 kilo empty bar, and then they cannot go ass to grass from the get-go. So this is beginner level. And then on the flip side, like the absolute opposite side, then you look at like the women who have the most strength in the world, and those are like the powerlifters and Olympic weightlifters, especially when it comes to squatting. And then you look at, okay, what's their strength level in relationship to their body weight, and how do they look as a result of their training and of their strength level. And while it is true that some women in powerlifting and Olympic weightlifting, they are a bit more fluffy because their job is not to look absolutely shredded like a bodybuilder. They have like a ton of muscle, and you can see that on they have like huge quads, they have like very, very strong lower back. They can all bang a lot of pull-ups. They have the muscle underneath the fluff. And this is what we understand as like, I have a bit of fluff and I want to reveal the muscle, then yes, there are some muscle there. And you can see that when they have to cut weight classes, because especially in Olympic weightlifting, they are changing the weight classes fairly often, especially in the last, 5 to 10 years. And so some women will go from one higher weight class to a lower weight class, and then you can see the difference. And, when you look at them, especially as you go a bit lower in the weight classes, then you will see that they have a ton of muscle. Like it's just undeniable. And this is a common thread about, women who have muscle. They are just strong. There's no woman who isn't strong, who has a lot of muscle. And it's so interesting because every time that we talk about this, then some ladies will mention Laurelie Chap and how she's not training with super heavy weight.
Yep.
And the first thing that you have to know is that she used to train with heavy weight.
Exactly.
That the first point. And if you go on her Instagram page and you scroll down like a lot of years, then you will see that she was indeed doing a lot of pull-ups. Not necessarily a lot, but she was definitely doing them. And she was also using like, I remember a video, I think it was some sumo deadlifts in the Smith machine, and she had 2 plates per side. So that would be like the equivalent of 100 kilos, 220 pounds. This is not like little weight. It's not like beginner level. The women who can deadlift 100 kilo from the floor, they are strong. They have to work for it at least a year, very often more like 2-3, with a very structured training program and with the intention of getting stronger. So that's the first thing. She used to train this way. And then the second thing is she might not be using like crazy heavy weight right now, but this is really something that people don't understand, is the weight she's using with the way she's moving requires a lot of strength.
Yeah.
And so she's
so stoic when training.
She's extremely stoic. She's extremely controlled. It's super difficult to move this way, even when you're not using weights. That's the first thing. Like, she has great movement skill. And then when you add weight to that, when you had the resistance to that, then it's going to be difficult to move in such a controlled way. And so when you look at those numbers and you compare them with women who are like, hey, I don't have the physique, and I don't understand why, because the way I move are similar to that what she is moving, but you compare the way they move, it's like night and day difference.
Yeah.
And so if you want to have the same kind of control, slow tempo,
same
crazy
depth.
isolation, same depth, and really making sure that you hit like very, very specific muscle fiber, then I can guarantee you that you will not be able, and do that for a fair amount of reps, because she's doing quite a bit of reps. I can guarantee you that you will not be able to use the same kind of weight that she's using. And it was interesting because on Tuesday we had a call with the community, and we were talking about exactly that topic. And one of the lady of the community mentioned another bodybuilder. I think her name is Ashley. she has a German name, Wasser
Okay.
something, but like top bodybuilder, Olympia, like
High level.
extremely high level. And I was checking her out, looking at her Instagram, and I saw some shoulder press. She has like shoulders, right? The kind of round shoulders and defined shoulders that a lot of women strive to have. And she was overhead pressing dumbbells of 35 pounds per side, so it's 16 kilo, like it was lightweight, right? So it was absolutely controlled. Tempo was on point, and then we did not see how far she pushed in terms of repetition, but it was like 5, 6, and it was still moving exactly the same as the beginning. So you could assume that she would be doing like 10, 12, maybe 15 reps with that kind of weight. And so we don't have, like, we have maybe 5 women who can overhead press 35 pounds, maybe with a similar control, but definitely for as many reps. And so when you look at those numbers, then it's like, yeah, she is strong actually. But a lot of women fail to recognize that because, they don't have the full scope reference of beginner level up to elite level. And then they don't understand like how precise and controlled you have to be, and how difficult that is to do with this type of weight.
I think that's why we are also so big on educating our ladies, and now you on this podcast, about those strength benchmarks that we are striving for. So we do have within our coaching very specific strength benchmarks that we are aiming for different kind of like levels of experience, like how many years you're already training. And so at the very beginning, when someone joins us and gets to work with us, we ask for those strength numbers, but then also during our like onboarding process, during our onboarding call, we go over those numbers and we let these women know like what we are actually striving for, because that gives you finally like the clarity of like, oh, like this is where I'm currently at. To go where I want to go and to achieve that physique that I'm aiming for, I actually need to put some work in when it comes to my training. And this clarity like changes. A lot of times we get the message of like, oh, now I have the clarity. It feels like weight being lifted off my shoulders, because before that you're just, as I said, trapped in this loop of having all these different opinions on what to do, what not to do, from coaches, from internet resources, from AI, from Instagram, from whatever, podcasts, right? And you're kind of like trying to piece everything together. And I don't hear a lot of people talk about strength numbers and in general like gym performance when it comes to physique development. Of course, like bodybuilders are extremely good with their training, but I think what we see at the end on social media is mainly the nutrition piece, which is shown a lot. And then when you see the training, you see that they are training, but you think just because you're also consistent as they are, that you will get the same results. And there's just like a deeper level to training than what you see on social media. And that gives you the impression of, oh, I just need to, lift 3, 4, maybe even like 5 times a week in the gym. I need to be very consistent with it. And if I'm consistent with it, and if I'm following, that's kind of the next layer, if I'm following a structured strength training program with progressive overload built in, then I'm good to go. And this is just not everything, right? We have layers behind that, because in the end, and that's a topic for another day, but in the end, you are the one who needs to apply progressive overload. It's not something that just a program is, giving you, and then by following it, you will transform, but you need to be the one who's chasing that. And if you don't have a look at your numbers, if you're not striving for specific performance benchmarks, then you will not chase it, right? You will just like go into your session, get it done, write down your reps and your sets and the weight that you used, and think just by following that recipe of a training program that is maybe really, really good, that your body will transform. But there is, again, a layer behind that, a level of ownership that you need to take over your strength training sessions to be able to transform your physique.
Like, I've wholeheartedly agree. And this is something that we will talk about in the next episodes, or maybe in 2 episodes from now. But I just wanted to go back to what you were saying about, the noise that it creates, and there are so many voices that tells you different things. And one of the problems with training is very often it becomes extremely reductionist. And so you hear people say like, hey, when I started doing this exercise, then this is my before and after of glute growth. Or
yes.
Right? Or I switched from this split to this split, and then those are my quads now, or this is how my back look, and that sort of things.
Yeah, it's just marketing.
Which is just marketing. It's very attention grabbing, which is fine. It's the game that is played on Instagram. But what happens is, in your mind you think like, oh, this is what I need, and you get trapped into that kind of shiny object syndrome, because then you think like, oh, this is what's going to give me the results, and then you try it out, and maybe it helps you make a bit of progress, but not all the progress that you wanted to make. And so then you're still like confused about why it didn't work, or didn't work as well as you'd hope for, and then you go to the next thing, and then to the next thing, and then to the next thing. And in the next few years, this is going to get even worse, because peptides are now going to, take over, kind of, or at least that's the prediction of a lot of people in the wellness space. And so you will hear about peptides that are going to help you, with growth hormones and testosterone and estrogen and whatnot. And so you will think like, oh, I need that. I need that peptide, I need to try this one, blah, 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 blah. But what you need to understand, and this is so important, but at the same time so simple that like the majority of you guys listening is going to just dismiss it, is all of those modalities, they are only tools that help you achieve a certain outcome, and that outcome is getting stronger. Right? Not getting stronger in the sense of we want to establish our 1 rep max like powerlifters do, or the Olympic weightlifters, but getting stronger over time for specific lift, given a specific rep range or rep numbers. Because we know that if you can do that over time, then your body will transform. This is literally what bodybuilders do. They get stronger over time with a standardized execution and a given rep range or given rep numbers, and then they can see their strength increase. And if you are able to do that, then you know that you will have built muscle. If you don't have that piece of information, then you will always be like left with a question mark of what if, or you will be seeking for other stuff, because you will not be focused on doing the things that's actually helping you move the needle. So this needs to be the priority. Same thing with, like creatine. You hear a ton, and this is something that we get quite a lot of question about. And when we look at the intake forms,
you should not be concerned about like creatine intake. It's that's the least problem you have.
We see that all the time, like, hey, what kind of supplements are you taking? And you see like multivitamin, whey protein, magnesium, vitamin D, creatine, collagen, probiotic, whatnot. Ashwagandha, for stress reduction, that sort of things. And then like, what are your strength numbers?
Oh, I
don't know. It's like, you are missing the forest for the tree.
Yeah.
It's literally like the thing that is missing in your journey.
Yeah.
And so as long as you don't know that, then you will likely be searching for other answers, other methods, other whatever it may be.
Yeah, and I mean it's again it's easier to buy creatine supplement on Amazon and start taking it, right?
100%.
Than being so invested in the training piece, because when you already go to the gym like 3-4 times 5 times a week, you think you're doing already so much. It's like, wow, so many people are not working out. And I'm putting in the time and the work of like going to the gym, and I'm consistent with it. And
Yeah,
so
and
there is just not this layer of like, oh, it goes even deeper than that, because I have the feeling we are very bad at, like, not we, because we are doing a great job obviously, but the fitness industry is very bad at educating women about performance and strength levels and everything that goes deeper than just following a training program in the gym, because there are also a lot of people in the gym who are showing up very regularly there, and they don't look like they lift, even though they are maybe there every single day. Like, there are people training every single day. Why don't they look different? Like, that's a big question. So there is a difference between someone who's really like invested in her training and understanding like what she's actually doing there and chasing strength numbers, and not just for the sake of, oh, I need to put on more weight and weight and weight. That's also like wrong, but you need to do it in a very strategic way over time. And it's not a couple of weeks. It's not like one training program where you're getting stronger, but it's really like over the years. And that's why we also always looking at those strength benchmarks that we have inside Women's Strength Society. And we're like, hey, if you're lifting 1 to 2 years, you should be here. If you're not here yet with your strength numbers, then we just know that your training is not effective, that something is lacking, because you should be further ahead. And we have women that came to us, who are still working with us, by the way, who are lifting for like 20 years. Like, one lady was like, hey, I started lifting in the 90s. I was like, I was not even a teenager in the 90s, right? So that's a freaking long time. That's more than 20 years that she's already in the gym lifting weights, right? Not group classes, but lifting weights. And her strength numbers are nowhere near where they need to be for all the work that she's putting in. And that comes from a lack of like clarity of what is actually like possible, what is needed, what should I strive for, what's like a normal rate of progress when it comes to my strength, and why is it even important for my physique.
And thank God this is changing slowly. Like, I feel in the last few years, then strength training has become more and more popular for women, but this is also something that for a long period of time, especially I think in the 90s and then early 2000, or maybe even goes back to before that. In the 80s, it was a lot of aerobic and that sort of things. It was just like not really for women to be strong and then display that kind of physical capacity or trait. And it's interesting because in the time where like bodybuilding became a bit more popular and a bit less niche, then you have, like, you can see if you dig into the archives, you can see that there were actually women who are pretty jacked and pretty strong, and then it got kind of lost. And now I feel it's coming back, and it's pretty cool to see because, when you go on social media, then you see more and more women who are actually very strong. And if you see them, you will see that they have muscle. And if you don't, then I don't know, you need a new pair of eyes or new glasses or something, or you need to do a better job at observing the difference between the women who have muscle and the women who don't really. But this is getting more and more popular, which is super important because there are still like so many people who advocate against that, saying like, yeah, women should not lift heavy because it's not feminine. It's going to make them bulky and look like a man. It's going to destroy their uterus or whatnot. Like, thinking about the doctor who said like, oh,
hip thrusts.
no barbell training during
Yeah.
pregnancy. It's absolutely forbidden. And so thankfully, there are more and more voices who speak against that and help facilitate, this change. But really just to say like, this is something that matters, and it matters not only for your physique and the way you look, but it also matters for your health. This is super important. We don't have the time to go super in depth about that today, but the process of, it's not just being strong, but it's the process of getting stronger is a very, very powerful thing that's going to have a massive impact on your health. This is what's going to help increase insulin sensitivity, protect your nervous system, improve your skeleton and your bone mineral density. It's going to have an impact on inflammation status, and if you do it correctly, then it's literally going to help you have a better immune system. And because a lot of the adaptations that come from training go through the immune system, so this is really something that you tap into. And so metabolic health, of course. So really keep in mind that getting stronger is not just about your physique, but it's also about your health and even mental well-being. So very important stuff. You want to know the answer to that question of how strong are you? And in the next episodes, we are going to talk a bit more about, what a good training plan looks like and what kind of rate of progress you should be expecting and look at when you try to get stronger.
Until next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.